Good afternoon, folks. I hope you're hungry for some juicy stories. Enjoy. Back when I was in nursing school, we were supposed to wear black, non-porous, closed-toed footwear with non-skid soles for our clinical rotations that weren't Crocs. Most of my fellow female students wore classic nursing clogs like Dascos and Sanitas. I tried wearing clogs like this in the past and had rolled my ankles too many times to recall, so I decided to not go that route for shoes. I'm a military spouse, a vet myself, and have aforementioned poopy ankles, so my footwear of choice was a pair of black leather tactical combat boots. As a show of support, and to make sure I always looked sharp at clinical, my hubby always shined up and edge-dressed my boots every evening before clinical the next morning. The boots always looked professional, they were comfy as hell, I could bump my toes into beds without breaking a toe, and I could wear them all day without having back pain, foot pain, or rolling an ankle. The same could not be said for my classmates wearing more traditional shoes like clogs. During the first week of my first semester, I had an old school nurse as my clinical instructor. I say old school because she believed female nurses should still be wearing crisp white uniforms with the stupid starched hats and that our profession lost prestige when we transitioned to scrubs. This instructor got such a bee in her bonnet about my boots and decided that my boots were out of regulation that she threatened to take it up to the director and have me tossed from clinical, thus failing the program. There was nothing in the handbook specifically stating I couldn't wear my boots since it just stated footwear which was black, well-maintained, non-skid and non-porous. Check, 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 check. Furthermore, the pair of boots that I wore were meant to be worn by EMTs, so they were waterproof, bloodborne pathogen resistant, puncture-proof, oil-proof, non-skid, and had reinforced toes. They were just as expensive as Dansko clogs, and could handle lots more abuse. I knew I was in the clear, and so I decided to keep on wearing them. The day after the instructor commented on the inappropriateness of my boots, she did a uniform/shoe inspection to make sure we were appropriately attired. I, of course, was wearing my nicely polished combat boots. She failed me for the day based on my boots, so I politely objected, stating that my boots fell within the definitions of acceptable footwear in the handbook. She literally marched me to the director's office like I was kid caught stealing cookies and demanded I get tossed for the boots, failure to follow program rules, and disrespect because I objected to her failing me. The program director, upon further close reading of the program regs, determined there was nothing that was wrong with the boots, they adhered to the standards set forth by the program, and that they were honestly safer than most of the shoes the other students were wearing because they were waterproof, puncture-proof, non-skid and had reinforced toes. She rescinded my fail and allowed me back in clinical. After that, I heard not a peep about my boots from any of the faculty the rest of my program. Fast forward to graduation. I had been wearing combat boots since I started and had no intention of stopping, especially since many of the vets that I cared for during clinical always reacted positively to them. Our nursing pinning ceremony, the event where we receive our nursing school pins and are officially recognized as nurses, has an all-white dress code. White uniforms, starched white hats, white closed-toed footwear. The word footwear is key, the dress code did not state shoes specifically, and I knew this. Same witchy old bat nurse sees me in the hall and makes it a point to tell me I'll have to get some real white nursing shoes to wear to pinning since I can't obviously wear my black combat boots because we needed to have white footwear. I politely smiled, nodded, said that I'd have white footwear, and went on my merry way, and then wore the all-white Doc Marten combat boots my infantryman husband bought me as a graduation gift to pinning. The instructor stopped me after the ceremony and complimented me on actually getting nursing shoes. At which point I pulled up the leg of my white scrubs and showed her my boots. The look on her face was priceless. I used to work in a cafe/diner as a waitress. My job is your typical food runner and sometimes bus duty if we are understaffed, always. Anyway, one day we had a college group who most were really nice, but one in particular was the clown. He started off with dumb jokes. When I was writing up orders he responded with food please or a cheeseburger without cheese. When asking for drinks he responded with a nice cup of water with ice at the bottom. With some of his buddies telling him to shut up and waving me an apology. Well, no problem, buddy. You can thank my 7th grade science professor warning us not to lick metal poles when it was cold or it'll stick like in the movies. I went back to fulfill this specific request to the T. I grabbed one of our milkshakes tins, gave it a quick rinse and packed ice cubes at the bottom. I crushed some additional ice and added them, allowing the entire thing to form one solid cold clump, and being cold enough, stuck to the wet interior of the tin. I returned triumphantly, plopping down the tin in front of the fool. Water, ice at the bottom as per dear customer's request. At first he was confused as he was the only one with the metal tin, then I hear him silently mutter holy sh, but was cut off by the rest of his group cheer in disbelief that I have conquered his quest. He and the rest of his buddies even took a few pictures of the cup, and before leaving slipped me a personal tip as a thank you. Since then, our diner's special was ice at the bottom as a running joke, and everybody new gets a kick out of it when they see it. My mom was an overnight manager at a truck stop. She regularly had to deal with drunks and the obnoxious Sunday morning crowd. There was a man that came in every Sunday morning, very early. No sooner than his order would hit the window, he would start yelling loudly, "Is it done yet? Where's my food?" and other rude things. The staff cringed when he walked in. My mom had enough. This particular Sunday, after a very rough Saturday night full of drunks, this man walks in with his usual crew and sits at his usual table. Just like clockwork, he started yelling as soon as his ticket hit the window. Mom threw a biscuit on the plate, added a piece of cheese, raw sausage patty, then cracked an egg and added the top part of the biscuit. She took him his order personally, slammed the plate down in front of him, and calmly asked him if he wanted his food now or if he wanted it cooked. He never yelled after that day. He became one of the nicest and best tipping customers. I am a very well endowed woman. I have been since I was 13, and as I get older they get bigger. My father has always had a hard time with that, even though my mother is who I inherited it from. Anytime I show a hint of cleavage he gets uncomfortable. Or he did. A few years ago I briefly moved back in with my parents to prepare to move out of state when my apartment complex was sold and renovated, and rent went from $1,000 per month to $2,000 per month. I was 33 at the time, and I was wearing something that showed cleavage. He wasn't rude, but he made a comment and huffed about it, cause we were all going out to eat. So I said, "Okay, I'll change, be right back." Now any woman with large breasts knows that certain clothes and certain materials and cuts will emphasize those, and it's not always just cleavage shirts that make them stick out. I had this maroon turtleneck, it was that Bodycon material. Went from neck to hip, neck to fingertips. No skin exposed. So I put it on and came back to the kitchen. The look on my father's face was priceless. He couldn't tramp about cleavage showing, but this shirt hugged my breasts, and made them look even bigger than they did before. I was like, "So you think this is better, huh?" Needless to say, my father never commented on my cleavage showing ever again. I have always been a lazy human. Not the lazy that causes other people to hate for not working on a group project. More of the work smarter not harder kind of lazy. Anyways, it was the end of freshman year, finals were coming and teachers were laying out the requirements. My English teacher was giving us a test on all 240 vocabulary words for the final. It was going to make up a considerable portion on the grade. Anyway, she said we could use the front and back of one flashcard. So I had an idea. I didn't know too many of the words, so I just decided to use the flashcard. Most kids had like 8 words on their card if they even bothered to fill it out at all, but not me. Let me say that it would be challenging for anyone to get me to work as long and as hard as I did on that card. First I got my ruler and made about 30 lines 1 millimeter apart from one another. Then I took a word list and alphabetized it. I then wrote next to the word the closest matching synonym that I knew next to it. I used the lines to fill in my smallest handwriting possible, every single word. Anyways, I showed a couple of people and they were angry at my loophole and said I was going to get in trouble. Nope. Easiest 100% ever. I still have the note card, and I have just temporarily made it my profile pic. What did you think? What would you have done differently? Share your opinions in the comments. And if you enjoyed the stories, slap that like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote, links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.